Hi, my name is Candace, and I'm an American living in Sweden, and I wanted to basically participate in the witch fail that I've seen on a couple of YouTube channels. I thought it would be fun. So for the basic intro, since I'm not well known, if at all, by anyone, would be that I have been into like spirituality and philosophy for most of my life. I do have like the usual Christian background, but at like quite an early age, I sort of started to seek out my own identity, my own answers, like outside of that, because I didn't really resonate, with my backgrounds. My background is like Irish Catholic. But my mom kind of moved into Christianity later. So, but I didn't really resonate with any of that. So I was always kind of seeking my own answers. I started yoga when I was 12. So a long time ago, like 20 plus 30 years. I'm not sure, but a long time ago. My math is not great. Let's see. So with yoga comes meditation, and it comes breathing practices. So I have experience with meditation and breathing practices. I've had many years to work on that. And I also started practicing lucid dreaming when I was in my teens to deal with like nightmares and like trauma. So I have some experience in lucid dreaming, and I studied nutrition in school, like at university, so I have some knowledge of herbs and, the diet for medicine, using food for medicine and stuff like that. So I have some background in those things. And I've also studied quite a lot of mythology and philosophy and different religious ideas, but I haven't really been practicing witchcraft or paganism or anything like that. So that's kind of all new. So I'm getting started, and that's one of the, I don't know if it's a failure, but it definitely has an effect on my practice that I'm starting so much later in life that it sort of feels like there could be a limit to how far I can get with it in this lifetime, because I am not starting when I'm much younger and my brain is a lot more, supple and my memory is a lot sharp. Like I used to have a really exceptional memory when I was young, and now my memory is not so great. So I feel like I'm getting started a bit later, and that's gonna kind of slow things down in a sense. Also when you're younger, for many people, and I cannot say this is the case for me, but for many people, you just have more free time, like, to work on it. For me, I have, like, a surprising amount of free time for an adult, like, which I'm extremely grateful for. So I do have some time to dedicate to it, that maybe someone else starting out at my point in life just wouldn't have. But, so that's one thing that's kind of good. But so now we'll go on to some of my actual fails, or areas where I kind of can foresee some difficulties. And the first one is journal keeping. I have never been good at keeping a journal. I'm not consistent. My handwriting gets progressively worse as I write. So like the journal starts out and it looks pretty and it's nice and everything, but then like a couple weeks in and it's illegible. It's just gibberish. And because I have ADHD quite severely, it doesn't make sense. Like I will write down every thought, every idea, every sound, just absolutely anything that I hear or see or think, all at the same time. And so if you were to look at it, it would be like, I went to the store. Where are the bananas? Who was that man anyway? I like the color green. It would just be like just random. It wouldn't make sense to anyone. And so I'm wondering how much I can benefit from my journals. Like even if I'm keeping them, like it looks like an insane person wrote my journals. Um, so I'm experimenting with like trying to do recordings of my journals to like, because I like if I have it in a conversational way with myself, I'm a little bit better at organizing it because I have to think about, okay, how is this going to make sense? Sometimes I have to do pre-journals and then like write them again and again and again until it actually makes sense. I mean, obviously limiting the distractions. So when I'm writing in the journal, that it's quiet and there's not a lot going on. But yeah, usually my brain just kind of explodes onto the paper. So, and speaking of my background, I also write a lot of poetry, mostly like very abstract and very surreal poetry. So that's just really the way that my mind works. It is just that abstract. So a lot of people, and this is something that maybe other people would have a hard time understanding, it's like, for many people, it seems like having this archetype, this kind of deity, okay, they look like this is their personality, and kind of really anthropomorphizing the deities helps them to connect more with the deity. But for many, many, many years, like most of my life, I have been talking to the universe or the Tao, like the abstract. That is so much easier for me to comprehend. I know that does not make sense, but it is just easier for me to comprehend than having this like anthropomorphized version of a deity that is basically a human on steroids or like with superpowers or something. I've really had a hard time with that, and I'm getting a little bit better at it because I want to work with deities and I want to work with these archetypes. I really love psychology, and I also just really want to believe that there are deities and there are other types of beings out there, you know, in the universe. But it's been hard for me to wrap my mind around that because I have so much easier time thinking in the abstract than I have in a concrete way. So that was one of my difficulties. Let's see, more on spells. Spells. I haven't really done that many spells. I've done a few sigil spells that have worked pretty well. And I'm surprised at that because I'm not really good at drawing. Like, I don't have a really good sense of proportion or like, you know, like I'm not super visual. So I was really surprised that the sigils have actually been pretty effective for me, and they're quite simple, so I really like them. But as far as like other spells, I'm very new to this, so it's not super surprising that I haven't done that many spells. But there's also sort of like, I'm kind of particular. It's like, if you think about when you're making like a meal that you've never made before, so you like print out a recipe or something to follow, I want to follow that recipe exactly, at least the first few times, so that I understand what it's supposed to taste like, you know, what is supposed to happen. And then after that, I can say, okay, it was too salty, it was too spicy, it was like, you know, whatever, and I can tweak it. But like, I like to follow them exactly in the beginning. And the problem is that every time I look up a spell, it doesn't matter if it's like a super basic spell. It's like, you need a white candle, you need a red candle, you need a yellow candle, you need a blue candle, you need special herbs that come from Tibet, and they only grow like once a year on this particular mountain at this particular time, and you have to like go harvest them yourself or something. I mean, it's just amazing how complicated spells are, like amazing how much ingredients they are. And then living in a super, super small town in a country that is like really, that has a lot of restrictions on different types of substances, especially anything that might even remotely like alter your state of consciousness. It makes it really hard for me to get like access to some of these things. And you know, obviously I'm not gonna order anything that would be illegal, but it does limit, like it really limits, and it makes it really hard to find. Like even something like mugwort is not easy to find. It might grow here, but I don't know enough about like what the plant looks like to be sure. But it's not, like when I've been trying to look it up, it has not been something that I'm going to be able to find super easily. And it's going to be expensive for me to get here. So, and things also take a really, really long time when you live in a small town to arrive. So, so yeah, I would say that that's been a problem. I wish the spells were like more basic, like more simplistic, and even just getting started is difficult because like I haven't been relying on spells. Like I've lived a long time and I haven't relied on them. I've just, when I've wanted something to manifest, I have asked the universe, and it's a lot of times I feel like it's happened. Like, you know what I mean? Like I've been really fortunate in that when I've asked for something from the universe, it usually works out. Sometimes I ask for something and realize, oh, I did not want that. Oh my gosh, why did I ask for that? But, like, so it seems like, well, why do I need to do a spell? Like, when I just have to ask and it just appears. Like, or, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying that there's no work that goes into it, but it seemed quite organic as is. But I like the idea that it feels a little bit like play. I mean, I don't mean to like be demeaning, but it's like as an adult, we just don't have that like same sense of wonder and curiosity. We don't experiment in the same way. Our minds have like closed down a little bit. Like sometimes, not everybody, but and so I like the idea of just like create, like it's this creative potential, like doing something, you know. But yeah, speaking of manifesting, I would say that like I listen a lot to videos and they talk about manifesting, and they often will have an example, like if you, for example, want to manifest love into your life, that you have to do like some of the work. You have to like join a dating site or participate in different social groups or say hello to a bunch of people or something. You have to like really put yourself out there, because if you don't, it's not like a man is going to show up on your doorstep. And I remember like, and I was thinking, every time I hear that, I was thinking, it was like a while ago, I was thinking, all right, universe, because I've been single for a while, and I was like, I want to date somebody. So the next person who asks me out, I will say yes to. And I thought, this is crazy, because I don't actually know anybody. Like, I'm very like secluded. I don't talk to people. I'm not in any social groups. I'm not on any like dating sites, or if I am, I've completely forgotten about them and haven't responded to them for months. So it's like, how is that going to happen? Because they would literally have to show up on my doorstep for this to work. And in a sense, they did actually. It did actually work that way, because like I'm working in a kitchen, and there's somebody like working at a daycare in the kitchen area, but there's like a main kitchen, and they deliver food to us, and someone who works in that bigger kitchen, who super rarely delivers food. Like he does it because that's not his main job, but like sometimes like if the delivery guy is sick or whatever, he can come and he can deliver food. And so I'd seen him just a few times. We hadn't had any like personal conversations really. It was just like like business related stuff, and very brief, because he was always in a hurry. So it was like maybe a minute or 30 seconds or, max like 2 minutes that I might see him, and just only on a very, very few occasions. And I thought he was cute, but he was like really young. So I didn't think anything of it. And then that day that I had asked the universe, that I told the universe I will say yes, I get a text on my phone that says, hey, is this your private number? And I said, yeah. And I didn't know who it was. And then he was like, do you want to go out? And so sometimes the universe does, like, actually, even if you haven't been talking to anybody and you don't know anybody, somehow it can still bring someone to you. So I found that out. Like, the universe is amazing. So I always think of that when I think of it, where they're talking about all these, you got to do this and you got to do that and all these things. And sometimes I feel like that's really daunting for some people. But I also understand it. It's like you wouldn't give somebody a driver's license if they hadn't proven that they were capable of driving the car. So like if you ask the universe for something and you don't have the skills like necessary to really like utilize that opportunity properly, you might have to like develop those skills first. You know, if you wanted a job, for example, and you were just like absolutely petrified of talking to people and you didn't have any confidence, and that, yeah, it might be actually hard to do the job even if you got the job. So I do understand like why you have to put in the work, but I do think sometimes it feels like for me that the way they describe it, it's like I'm doing that I have to do, I get overwhelmed like with, oh my God, how am I going to like change everything about myself so that I can make this happen? So I can get pretty overwhelmed by it because it can seem like it's this huge thing that you have to do, like fundamental, like from the like foundation down, just tear yourself open and like rebuild yourself into a completely different person to manifest. And then another thing with manifestation is they're always talking about you have to have positive thoughts all the time, pretty much. Like sometimes they say that, but nobody does. Like, you know, we all have bad days. We all have days where we don't believe that something is going to happen. Like, you know what I mean? Maybe you put something out in the world that you want it to happen, and then there's moments when you really feel excited about it. You can feel that excitement. You can imagine that it's already happened. And then there are moments when it's like, this isn't going to happen. This is ridiculous. I haven't done the work, or I'm not good enough, or, you know, you have these doubts creep in. And, you know, according to a lot of the laws of manifestation, well, then you've messed up. It's not going to happen. But I found that doesn't matter that much, like if you're negative sometimes, because we are, like, it's just a natural human. So I don't think that is in my experience, like, it's not as picky. Like, we don't have to be perfect. You know, for overall, you know, you try to think positively and work towards the thing that you want. And I think that usually is enough, that you do what you can, like as you are with who you are. You don't have to be somebody completely different. But sometimes when I'm watching these videos or reading these books, it's kind of like, you know, and another thing that this is kind of on a tangent, but like when they define success, when people define success, it's like, but I don't want that. You know, like, I don't want all this money that I have to like spend all my time like financially planning and like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, I have to work, you know, 16 hours a day so that I can just spend all my time counting my money, like, or I want to be famous and then have zero privacy for all of eternity, and everyone is like either complimenting or degrading me depending on where I am. And it's just like, that's success? No, thank you. Like, I don't know. Like, I define success quite differently. For me, my success is a lot more like related to the spiritual aspects of like, just, can I develop myself spiritually? What am I like learning and stuff like that? So sometimes I have trouble with that. Like, I just don't really maybe want the same things. So when I'm looking at a spell and it's like, it doesn't relate to me. It's not something I'm looking for in the first place. I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't want everybody to notice me and think I'm beautiful. I just want to have a meaningful connection with someone, you know. Like, it's just, and speaking of, I did say yes because I told the universe I would say yes. And so I said yes to a complete stranger, basically, and it was nice. It was really nice. He was very nice, so I don't regret that at all. So say yes, and maybe that's kind of the trick. Let's see, I have a note here because I will forget otherwise. Grounding is another hard one for me. Like, I don't know super much about astrology yet, but I don't have any earth in my chart. I do have like a history of trauma and stuff, so I do have like the emotional dysregulation and stuff like that. So grounding is something that's very important to me, like, and for me, and I have to do it a lot. So that's probably the biggest thing. It's like, how do I stay grounded when I'm exploring these alternate states of consciousness? You know, you're like, how do I make sure that my mental health is like, good, like I'm balanced, before I'm exploring these other things. And making sure that I'm grounded and emotionally regulated before I even consider working, like doing spell work. And that's hard because you get excited about something, you really want to work on something, but you're not, like your emotions are just, they're all over the place, or you're like not grounded, or you're kind of, you know what I mean? Like it can be like risky to work with it at that time, because then you can manifest all kinds of weird things, which has happened to me before. So that I would say would be a challenge for me. And so because I have to work so much with, am I regulated? Am I grounded? Then I don't, like, how can I think about the, like, moon? Is it in the right place? Is it all these other things optimal? Because if I had to wait for absolutely every one of these things to be optimal, it might be that I cast one spell in my entire lifetime. I feel like that would be the case. So basically I'm focusing more on, like, am I regulated? Am I grounded when I'm doing this? Like, if I'm in a good headspace, then it's go time. So let's see. This is a simple one. It's like, I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos from different practitioners so that I can learn. And they have these, like, amazing shrines, like, in the background. They, like, I've just, like, never seen anything so beautiful in my entire life. And I don't have any decorative sense of style, I guess. It's like I can pick out individual items that people will like and think are attractive. It's not like everything I pick out is like hideous, but it's more that I don't know how to put it together in a cohesive way that looks good. Like, my shrines look like yard sale tables. Like, do you know what I mean? This is like a bunch of random items stuck on a shrine. They mean something to me. Like, it makes sense to me, but, like, arranging it in a way that doesn't look like this is for sale, I don't know how to do that. So I don't have that kind of sense of style that witches seem to have. Let's see. I talked about manifesting. I talked about my beliefs some, that I have had trouble believing that I do better with abstract thought. So it's a lot harder for me to see these deities and so forth in more concrete terms. And I think a lot of people have this issue where they need a lot of proof. Because I do have mental health issues, it's like I need a lot of confirmation to feel secure that it's not coming from me. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I'm getting a sign, it's like, how do I know that voice I heard, is not my own voice? And sometimes it's really obvious, because it doesn't, like, I have had, like, moments of, I guess, clairaudience where I've really distinctly heard a voice completely different from my own, saying something completely different. And then I can tell, but, like, sometimes it's a lot more subtle, and I can't be sure if it's just, like, my own inner wisdom coming through, or if it's like communication. And speaking of signs, it's like, because I have ADD, like ADHD, and my mind is all over the place, and I'm in my own world half the time, it's like the signs have to be really ridiculous for me to see them. Like, if a bird could land on my shoulder and I'm not going to notice, like somebody could be, like, checking me out in a cafeteria, like, I'm not going to see it. They pretty much have to come up to me and say, I am checking you out, let's go on a date. Like, or the bird would have to be like, I'm sitting here, pay attention. And I have had birds actually literally land on my shoulder, like several times when I was visited the zoo, the aviary section. There were these, like, exotic birds that, like, the crown pigeon. I can't remember what it was, but for this area, it was not something that people had seen. And, like, everybody wanted to see this bird, but it was, like, super grumpy and, like, super elusive. And it was, like, 3 of the times I've been to the zoo, that bird has, like, landed on me. And usually people never even see it because it's, like, so elusive. So, like, that kind of thing. It has to be, like, in my face, big for I'm gonna notice before I notice. So I feel like my guides have probably been trying to talk to me a lot, and I don't even know. Like, I'm not even aware of it. And speaking of that, I would still say that I'm more like intuitive than I am practical. So sometimes I have to like remind myself I have to be a little bit more practical, like a little bit, like again, it's with that grounding, like, you know, I can't just like wander around in my own like headspace. And like people have described me like a drunken ninja, like I could like literally like walk in front of a truck and somehow avoid being hit and nothing bad happens. And it almost even sometimes seems like it goes through me or something. I mean, people are just like, what are you doing? Like, how are you alive? Like, so I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm not quite real, like in a way. It's that derealization thing. But the thing is, other people feel that way because I have had more than one person like touch me because they thought that I was a ghost. So it's not just coming from me, it's coming from other people. So I have a sort of reality to me, and so sometimes I have to remember the practical stuff. Plant care. Like I have one plant. I don't remember what side it's on. It's like an orchid. I think you see the other way. I'm sorry. In no directional sense at all. I get lost everywhere very easily. But yeah, so I can keep orchids alive pretty well, and I can keep aloe vera alive, but that's it. Like everything else dies immediately when it comes into my house. Like if it's outside and it's doing its own thing, it's not like my presence like kills plants in general, but like if they're in my house, they will die. So the idea, like, it's probably not going to happen for me to grow my own herbs or, you know, medicinal plants, because plants don't talk. They don't say, feed me, water me, give me salt or whatever they want. They don't tell me that. And so they die because they're not vocal enough for me to keep alive. You know, you need like a cat or something, or a dog that's like telling you and giving you this like look. So yeah, plants, I have no luck with that. I studied nutrition in school, so I have a degree in it, so I technically know how to eat, but I actually really, really, really hate cooking, like passionately. So that's a problem because like I don't want to cook, so then I don't eat as well as I should, and that's something that I need to stay healthy and to be like, I have no problem exercising. I love exercising. It's super fun. But cooking is super boring, and I think my health would be super much improved, and my like mental states and everything if I ate better, because I feel like you need, like, for me, I think like your health comes first before casting spells for any of these things. Like, they're beautiful and they're interesting and they're exciting and all this stuff, but if you're not healthy, like, what's the point? Like, so that's like my main focus is like being healthier, and so eating is something that I'm not like perfect on. I like healthy food, so this is the frustrating part, is I actually enjoy eating like healthy food. It's not that I don't like it, and I know some people don't like it in general, but it's not that I just really, really don't like cooking. Like if I were rich, that's the first thing I would do is hire a chef. Just come to my house, do all my cooking, because I really don't like cooking. Yeah, so I think that is everything about what I'm feeling at. I didn't mention one thing, and this is like super long because I don't know how to control my talking. Astral projection. I cannot do astral projection like purposely, but I do it a lot when I'm asleep. A lot. And I end up exhausted and who knows where. Like, I am fortunate in that when I astrally project, I usually feel like there is a guide or someone with me, like at the time that it's happening, that's actually like literally holding me, you know, so I feel reasonably safe. But it's like I'm going to all these different places, and I feel like I'm actually interacting with other people, like actual dream travelers or other beings and stuff, so I can just get really exhausted from sleeping because I'm so busy, like in the sleep, doing so many different things. So like in addition to like meeting different beings or like the astral projection stuff, sometimes I will do like meeting with the dead, I guess. Like this is something my mom can do or has done as well when she was younger, and it's just something that I guess, is like in my family. But, you know, knowing kind of like having these ideas about when someone is going to die, and then having them come to and sort of going through the process of like what happens when you die, and talking to them about their worries and their fears, like, you know, to help them like transition. And I do this with like my pets too, like they come to me as well. And I've done this since I was a kid, you know, so that is like really draining work. I don't do it every night, but like I definitely do it some nights, and it's like it's really draining, because like I am literally going to the underworld sometimes, and and I've seen it, and you know, I have a painting over there that's kind of supposed to be like a depiction of it, but I'm not really a good painter, so, which is another thing, terrible at crafts. All witches seem to be like really good at crafts, but I'm absolutely terrible at crafts. I write, but like I can't paint and do anything with glue. Just like if it involves glue, it's a disaster. But yeah, so with that kind of stuff, it can be exhausting. You know, so it also makes it harder for you to kind of stay in the world, because like you're traveling to all these other worlds when you're sleeping, and so it's kind of like I don't know, it's just it's sort of hard to stay connected to sometimes to this particular realm, because I spend, you know, you sleep a lot, so we spend a lot of time in this other state of consciousness, and then yeah, so I guess I would say that would be a problem for me. But it's good work. I mean, like, it's enjoyable that I feel like when I've done the crossing over that there's peace, and so it's meaningful, and but it is exhausting. So yeah, that's it for me. It was a super long video, but I hope that you got something from it, and thank you for watching.